Last time on Chrono Cross, the Radical Dreamers edition. What's more, she was achingly beautiful, stylish, a joy to be around, and a dab hand at campsite cooking. Or so she liked to claim. The truth was a little different. She's British. And now back to the extras. Hello and welcome to the channel. We're back with some more Chrono Cross. Last episode, we started the Radical Dreamer scenario, and infiltrated Lynx's mansion with Kid and Magil, who's leaving a very good first impression. I kinda wish we got to meet him in the main story. So it turns out I'd chosen a pretty good place to stop, because after last session I got pretty sick, so I couldn't record for a while. Considering where we left off, I shouldn't be getting lost. As long as I don't have to backtrack to any of the previous locations, we should be fine. So, we went through the atrium and continued down the corridor, before finding ourselves at a fork in the road. The corridor stretched off to the left and right. We'll start at the left. I wonder how much longer we have to go here. I imagine we're halfway through. We're in a mansion, not a castle. We continue down the corridor, eventually reaching an old, rather sturdy-looking door. Bloody marvelous. Another bloody door with a bloody magic barrier on it. Wonder what's inside. Me sixth sense tells me it ain't treasure. Oh, and because I was sick, my voice is gonna be pretty off today. Kid whispered back to us as she examined the door. I suspect that this is the manor's dungeon, replied Magil, his eyes closed in concentration. I can hear the sound of someone moaning in the darkness on the other side. But there is nothing we can do, and thus it is of little concern to us now. Let us turn back. With no way of getting through the door, we retraced our steps down the corridor. So, let's continue straight on. We continued down the dark, dank corridor until some stairs leading downward finally came into view. We went down the stairs. Slowly, we crept down the staircase. This kinda looks like we're going up, descending deeper into the shadows as we went. At the bottom, we found ourselves at another intersection. Of course, the dim, narrow passageway branched left and right. Start from the left. We continued on down the corridor until it ended at a large door covered in scratches and other odd marks. Above the door was a wooden plate. It bore the legend guard room in elaborate calligraphy. Well, reckon this might be where to find the key to that door upstairs. No getting past that bloody magic barrier without it. Kid pressed an ear against the door and listened carefully. Doesn't sound like anyone's in there, she whispered. We went inside. What's the worst that could happen? Kid opened the door. The room had seemed completely silent from the outside, and so we had thought it would be empty, but there inside was a lone goblin. It was sitting in a chair with a book in its hand. A light steam drifted from the teacup on the table in front of it, and with it a delicate aroma. Interesting. Hello there. The goblin peered at us curiously over its spectacles. There was something different about this one. I could tell as much at a glance. Heavens, how rare it is to have guests. Heavens! How well spoken for a goblin. I could only feel dread and suspicion at the sight of him nonetheless. Sorry, mate, but we're not your guests. Cough up the key to the dungeon if you want to live. Kid slammed her knife into the table to illustrate her point. But the goblin didn't so much as flinch. Ah, you must be Kid. What a pleasure this is. I have always so wanted to meet you. Why, you're even more ravishing than the rumors would. Before the goblin could finish, Kid's knife flew through the air. With a quick flick of his wrist, the goblin caught the blade with the back of his book, a mere inch from his face. I see that your approach is as radical as the name of your merry band would suggest, the goblin said, pulling the knife free and handing it back to Kid. He's very chill. She took it without a word, but her gaze had changed. She was like a cat, cautiously studying its prey. And I was just getting to the good part too. Oh well, I suppose I shall have to give up on ever finishing it now. The goblin casually flung the book over his shoulder and into a nearby bin. Allow me to introduce myself if I may. I am Grismeld and I am the guard on watch. No need to stand. Please, do take a seat. You're welcome to tea, of course. The goblin beckoned us to sit down. Did he mean to poison us? If I may. Magil calmly took a seat, ignoring the obvious suspicion in the air. I sat down next to Magil. I decided to trust Magil's instincts and took a seat next to him. He had some kind of plan in mind, I was sure of it. Kid didn't look like she'd be pulling up a chair anytime soon. She was standing with her arms crossed, eyeing the goblin suspiciously. The goblin poured 3 cups of tea. Here you are. Without the slightest hint of hesitation, Magil took his teacup and lifted it to his lips. He sipped, then placed the cup back on its saucer. This is poison! There isn't even any sugar in this! Heal my ale and tea. Not a blend I'd expected to find here. What a pleasure it is to encounter a fellow connoisseur. Yes, it's a rare blend, and one mainly enjoyed by the noble classes. I couldn't believe the conversation I was hearing, but I also couldn't help wondering what this rare tea might taste like. My eyes rested on the cup that had been poured for me. I couldn't shake the fear that it might be poisoned, but I also couldn't ignore how delicious it smelled. Before I knew it, the cup was in my hands. This is great, I blurted out. I never had such a delicious brew in my entire life. My aches and pains faded away. I glanced over at Kid, who was blowing manically at the liquid in her cup. Can she not handle hot temperatures? Is she a Nekojita? I'd forgotten that she was paranoid about burning her mouth on things. She might be. Now that we're comfortable, let's get down to brass tacks, as they say. I do indeed have the key to the dungeon, as you surmised, but you will also be aware that I cannot simply give it away. I glanced over to Kid again. Typical, she wasn't listening to a word Grismeld was saying. She was still huffing and puffing at her tea. It seemed it would be up to me to respond. I suppose that means you want something in return. You'd like to know what I want? I want your heads! Oh, whoops, that was a timed response. Or rather, I'm sure that's what my employer would have me say. But no, I have no such barbarous aspirations. Furthermore, I doubt I'd be a match for you. Grismeld chuckled as he said this. It is 3-on-1. What I live for is the joy of conversation, which I fear my compatriots are ill-equipped to supply. Perhaps you might have one or two ripping yarns to share. Grinning, he added, I'm sure notorious thieves such as yourselves must have more than a few thrilling tales up your sleeves. So he wanted to hear a story. That seemed a more than fair price to pay for the key. I closed my eyes and thought, aha, I know just the story. How did it begin? One night, a young girl was walking alone in the forest. And then, she was searching for a golden sunflower. Only way to cure a sick something. Then, walked and walked, nowhere to be found. The fragments I remembered seemed about right. There was only one way the story could end. I took a breath and began my tale. One night, a young girl was walking alone in the forest. She was searching for a golden sunflower, the only way to cure her sick mother's illness. She walked and walked, but the sunflower was nowhere to be found. And then, in her moment of darkest despair, she saw a brilliant light. It was none other than the golden sunflower she sought. The young girl gratefully pocketed the sunflower seeds. These will surely save my mother, she thought. She rushed home to give them to her, and her dear mother was hale and hearty once more within days. And they all lived happily ever after. That was beautiful, murmured Kid, wiping a tear from her eye. Grismeld frowned. Not quite what I was expecting, and not the most riveting of tales, but I suppose it will do. The key, as promised. I took it from Grismeld's hand. Something didn't seem right though. Was he really going to give it up so easily? And was it really alright to trust such a strange goblin? If he's smart enough to be so well read, he's smart enough to just straight up lie to us. Grismeld seemed to notice my suspicion. He leaned back into his chair looking at the ceiling. When I was a young tyro, a braver, stupider goblin, I once served General Viper, who was the lord of this manor until his betrayal by Lord Lynx. Despite my boorishness, Lady Riddle always saw something in me worthy of praise. Wait, Riddle? What's Lynx's adopted daughter got to do with anything? Oh, you didn't know? Riddle's real father was none other than General Viper himself. What? Lord Lynx spared Lady Riddle's life so as not to snuff out that of the frozen flame. Really? How are they connected? It's an uncanny stone, you see. Has a life of its own, and some kind of spiritual bond with Lady Riddle. If only there were some way that I could free milady from this manor. Alas, I alone am powerless to do any such thing. Of course, I would have no qualms if, say, you were to topple the usurper. I assume you intend to. Slay the old beast, I mean. It was a strange inquiry to make so casually. Well, if it comes to it, I was more than a little taken aback by the directness of Grismeld's question. I'd never expected to find one of Lynx's own guards asking me something like that. Suddenly, I was shoved aside. Not if it comes to it, we're gonna kill him tonight, and kill him good. It was Kid, of course. And, in exchange, I'll have some more of that tea to take with us. Kid held out her hand before Grismeld could offer an answer. I suppose I have a bag I can share. Grismeld shuffled awkwardly in his seat as he retrieved it. As ever, I was impressed at how Kid's uncompromising attitude and willingness to speak her mind seemed to always get her what she wanted. Bonza, sit tight and leave the rest to us, mate. Stowing the bag in her pocket, Kid took the job. You can trust me. I'm a girl and me word. That might have been the biggest lie she'd ever told. Right, let's get moving. She made for the door with a spring in her step. We left the room and Grismeld behind. We left the room and took the left down the corridor. We followed it for a while before coming to an intersection. The way to the right ended at a staircase going up. The corridor also continued directly ahead, but the way was completely enshrouded in darkness. We came from the stairs. Let's go forward. See what's in this direction. We followed the corridor for a while before coming across a small door. Get a whiff of that. Something smells good, whispered Kid, sniffing at the air. We went inside. We opened the door. Blimey, this is a small kitchen. There's a rat. Must be for the servants, commented Magil. I scanned our surroundings. A basin for washing dishes, cooking utensils, some food made ready for tomorrow, and a mousetrap. It looked like any other commoner's kitchen. Kid walked over to a large pot filled with food and peered inside. Looks like tomorrow's lunch. Wanna try some, Ragnus? I respectfully declined. I made my excuses as politely as I could. Kid clicked her tongue in disappointment. Alright then. You want some, Mag? No. Fine. Well, if you're afraid to try it, I ain't touching it either, she said, turning her back on the pot. Suddenly, a little voice rang out. You there, the young man with the braid. Kid froze. Oi, who you calling a bloke? Kid barked angrily in the direction the voice was coming from. A mouse was looking at us with eyes like saucers from the inside of a mousetrap hanging from the wall in the corner of the room. Oh, I am sorry. You're a young lady, I see. The mouse bowed its head in apology. Please, kind young lady, you must hear me out. The mouse put its paws together and stared pleadingly at Kid. I left the nest to find food for my mother, but as you can see, I managed to get myself caught in a trap. If you leave me here, I will surely be eaten by goblins. Kid eyed the little creature suspiciously. I beg of you, please free me from this trap. My mother is sick and she'll be terribly worried about what has become of me. The mouse was clearly begging for its life, but there was also an odd little glint in its eye. I don't trust it. Kid shrugged and sighed. Fine. Guess we can't just leave it to rot. Hold still. Let's get you out of there. She lifted the trap down onto the floor and opened the door. The mouse bounded happily out from inside. The mouse gave a wicked chuckle. You poor naive fool. Suddenly its body began to balloon massively in size. Time for a fight. Bugger me, a griffin! A griffin! The enormous creature stared balefully down at us. Idiot humans. My mother is not sick, but yours will be when she sees what I've done to you. You dirty little swine. And after all I've done for you. Kid's face was red with anger. The griffin gave an almighty cry and leapt right at us. Its razor-sharp talons sliced. I dodged the attack. Caught off guard, I tried my best to dodge the attack, but the blow never came as the griffin suddenly lost its balance and came crashing to the ground. Oh bother, I'm too hungry to even fight properly. What on earth? I breathed a sigh of relief, running a hand down my chest. Oh, that was quick. Alright, little mouse. Now it's time for the real show to begin. Kid walked up to the griffin, cracking her knuckles. Gulp. Please, kindly young lady, this is all a misunderstanding, a terrible misunderstanding. Panicking, the creature leapt to its feet. You can't kill me. I have useful information. If you let me go, I promise I'll tell you everything I know. Everything! Yeah? I know how much a promise when the likes of you is worth. Kid took another step toward the griffin, not skipping a beat. Please! Kid kept on coming. The griffin kept on shrinking away. You better just give up the information. She's gonna beat you up. Enough. Magil called for Kid to stop. Let's hear it. Oh, thank you, kind sir. The griffin was beside itself with relief. Spoil my fun, why don't ya? Grumbled Kid, pouting as she turned away. Listen well, O merciful savior. Right, thrice. Left, twice. Right, twice. Should you find yourself trapped in one of Lynx's swirling snares, remember my words. Right 3, left 2, right 2. With that, the griffin returned to its mouse-like form and disappeared into a small hole in the wall. Trapped in Lynx's snares? Ha! As if I'd be thick enough to walk into one of his traps. Let's get out of here. We've wasted enough time already. Kid turned on her heel and made for the door. We left the kitchen. I can easily remember it, but I'm not sure how much information my brain's gonna need to store in the meantime. I wrote it down just to be safe. Leaving the room behind us, we took a ride down the corridor. We followed it for a while before coming to an intersection. Okay, back up the staircase. We continued down the corridor, eventually reaching an old, rather sturdy-looking door. The one we need the key for, right? Right, the key we got from that creepy old goblin should do the trick. Kid slipped the key into the lock. The heavy door groaned slightly as it slowly swung open. Clammy air rose up around our feet, as if crawling blindly through the darkness. This didn't seem like the kind of place anyone in their right mind would visit voluntarily. Prison. We pushed the heavy iron door the rest of the way open and stepped into the darkness. There was a row of cells, all locked behind iron bars. 1, 2... Oh, Gulliver, Melgid, Surrenda, forgive me please, please forgive me. We heard a voice from the third cell, whimpering and crying pathetically. I strained my eyes to look inside. Faintly in the darkness, I could see something that looked like a man sitting on the floor, so this was the source of the voice. Oi, you alright, mate? Kid called out to the figure. Is that Radius? Forgive me. It's all my fault. It's my fault. The Dragoons never deserved this. General, Lady Riddle. Oh, forgive me. I beg of you. The old man didn't seem to respond to us at all. He only sat facing the wall begging forgiveness for who knew what. Hello? Can you hear me? Asked Kid, trying again. There'll be no getting through to him. His real self will have long since retreated inside the shell he has created, said Magil, cutting her off. Shell? What do you mean? I asked. He has built a shell around the core of his psyche in order to shield himself from the truth. He is running from something. Something terrible. He has seen something. Or been through something. Or has done something. And so he has created his own world on the inside as a final refuge. The outside world lost to him forevermore. I looked at Magil in surprise. I detected a hint of unspoken sadness in his words. And for some reason, he was looking at Kid, watching over her as she stared at the men in the cell. Seeming to notice my gaze, Magil turned back to face me, assuming his usual emotionless expression once more. We live in a world of sorrow and foolishness. It's only inevitable that some would try to escape it. But despite his hard words, his eyes retained a certain softness, his steely gaze giving way to a gentle light. Do you understand? I think so. I gave a slightly evasive answer. You seem confused. I don't blame you. You'll come to understand eventually. Magil looked at me and Kid. What was all that about, I wondered. We're not gonna get much out of him. He's miles away. Let's just leave him be and try someplace else. Kid made for the door of the dungeon. Wait, called Magil. We must find some way to get this man to speak. What for? I mean, he's speaking already, just none of it makes sense. What are you after? Some things he said piqued my curiosity. He mentioned the Dragoons, and Riddle too. So? You said the Dragoons are ancient history, snapped Kid. Besides, how can we trust anything he says? He's clearly gone off his rocker. She had a point. The old man had long since cut his ties to the real world. What did Magil expect him to say? Without missing a beat, Magil replied, we simply have to bring him back to reality. And how are we gonna do that? You want me to do a little dance for him or something? See if that gets his motor going. No, please don't do that. The words were out of my mouth before I could stop them. What are you saying? Her eyes narrowed threateningly. You don't think anyone would want to see me dance, is that it? What? No, completely the opposite. Actually, ignore me. Nah, this should be good. Enlighten me, why don't ya? He's right, it won't work. Thank you, Magil, you're the goat. And just like that, Kid's fist was flying towards Magil's face instead of mine. He dodged the blow with ease and carried on as if nothing had happened. We must break through the shell he has created and drag him back to the real world. And in order to do that, we will need some kind of key. Something that will reach him even through the barrier he has erected. Yeah? And where are we gonna find this key? Asked Kid suspiciously. I don't know, came Magil's simple reply. But there is someone in this manor who can tell us. You don't mean... You're not talking about Riddle, are you? I am. Magil replied with a nod, but we gotta find her. Alright, fine. Don't know what the heck you expect her to tell us, though. Kid turned on her heel and made for the door. We left the gibbering old man in the dungeon, alone with his sorrow. I followed Kid and Magil back out into the corridor. Let's go to the atrium. We actually have to backtrack all the way to the other place. That shouldn't take us too long. Ugh, I forgot how creepy this place was. Let's go inside. We found ourselves in a tidy, welcoming room. The knickknacks and curios dotted around the place seemed to be well loved. The stately desk and the cozy-looking bed nearby, meanwhile, suggested the room's occupant was no stranger to luxury. Though the room was richly furnished, somehow it still felt awfully lonely. Is someone there? Came the voice of a young woman. We shrank into the shadows. There she is. The woman appeared from deeper within the room. She was lightly made up and had a gentle, unthreatening air about her. It was Lynx's daughter. Strange. I'm sure I heard someone. I was at a loss as to what to do for a moment, but before I'd had time to do much more than hold my breath, Kid had already darted over and thrust her knife out, stopping the blade only a hair's breadth from the woman's neck. Where's the frozen flame? Answer me! Her voice came out in a harsh growl. I rushed in to hold Kid back before she hurt the poor woman. Kid, do we really have to do it this way? Shut your trap, Ragnus! Riddle couldn't help but giggle as she watched us bickering. What are you laughing at? Kid shot Riddle a harsh look. It's just, you don't seem like thieves at all. You want me to cut you, girl? I'd be surprised if that knife could cut anything. For a moment, I felt faint, imagining Riddle on the floor covered in blood. But then, clang. Kid had thrown her knife to the floor, and I saw that it was only a letter opener. Didn't think you noticed. Whatever. I'm not here to mess around killing the likes of you anyway. I have no desire for bloodshed either, said Riddle in a voice that was almost a whisper. I am not your enemy. In fact, I want to help you. There wasn't a hint of hesitation or deception in her voice. Let me guess. You're trapped in the mana too? Riddle only lowered her eyes sadly in response to Kid's question. The frozen flame should never have been allowed to fall into Lynx's hands. Riddle spoke quietly, but deep emotion clearly underpinned her words. The flame was once the property of an ancient kingdom to the north, who kept it for generations. It was said to have the uncanny power to guide people and change history itself. After the kingdom fell, the flame changed hands countless times, until eventually it came into my father's possession. That was before I was born. Sometime later, Lynx became aware of the flame's true value, and approached my father under false pretenses of friendship. Not a soul suspected what his true intentions were. And then on that horrible day, he destroyed everything. He killed everything. Riddle shook her head, then buried her face in her hands. I don't care about the frozen flame. I don't care about that stupid accursed stone. It means nothing to me. I just want to take it away from Lynx and smash it to pieces right in front of him. And only we can make that happen. Riddle looked up with surprise as Magil spoke. No one else in the world can seize that jewel from Lynx. Riddle stared speechlessly. And then, in a low voice, she whispered, What can I do to help you? There's a survivor of the Acacia Dragoons in the dungeon who we want to help. And if we're to help him, we need your help, said Magil, taking a step forward. What? That man is a traitor. It's because of him that Zoronda. Please, it's the only way. Riddle turned her back to us and hung her head low. She looks so different. She looks better with purple hair. The Chamber of Death. There might be something to bring him back to his senses there. After all, it was there that he chose to abandon his pride, his life. I assume the Chamber of Death must be the cell with the trapped ceiling. Riddle nodded. Yeah, that's gonna be a problem, started Kid. That thing damn near killed us the last time. Why is there no opening quotation mark here? You will need to take the Einlanzer with you. It is a sacred sword said to have been forged by an ancient sage, and a sister blade to the crimson cursed Masamune. The timeless blessings of the Einlanzer will surely keep you safe from the Chamber of Death's wickedness. It used to be such a sight to see it in the hands of Zoronda. It danced like the wind, shone like the stars, and struck like lightning. Lost again in memories of fonder times, Riddle once more bowed her head. Forgive me, I have little more to tell you. You've told us more than enough. We'll take our leave now, said Magil, turning and making for the door. I wish I had the strength to change things like you do, whispered Riddle, biting her lip. Kid hesitated for a moment, seemingly deep in thought. It ain't about strength, it's about having a purpose. Something to fight for. I will be praying for you. Kid shot Riddle a look over her shoulder. Great, maybe you can cross your fingers too. We left the room. I think we need to go to the stairs. That's the way into the clock tower. Oh wait, I could have continued on. There it is! Our ticket to not getting turned into mincemeat. The ancient sword was right where Kid had left it after pulling it out from the pile of junk. Oh! She ran over to where it lay. Looking down at the sword, Magil muttered, 2 ancient blades. The sacred Einlanzer and the cursed Masamune. What do you want about, Mag? You know something about this Masamune? Magil said nothing. Well, it seems to mean something to ya. It does. Uh-huh. Something to do with old friends I don't know about? Not exactly. An enemy then? Not exactly. Ugh, you're being weird, Mag. Well, whatever. Oi, numbnuts, grab this thing for me, will ya? I was still standing by the doorway when Kid called over to me. Who, me? Yeah, you. Or were you gonna make me lug the bloody thing around the place? I'm just a scrawny little girl, ain't I? Call yourself a gentleman. My jaw dropped. I knew there wasn't anything I could say to her. Silently, I walked over to Kid and picked up the sword like I was told. Whoa! I nearly fell over. That thing was heavy. Good boy. Right, off to the Chamber of Death. Eyes on the prize, lads. Dragging the sword behind me, I followed Kid out of the room. Magil, you want to help me with this? I kind of just got lucky here. I didn't remember that sword. I think it's up here. Let's go inside. Yep, here's the place. Well, this place is just as creepy as I remember. Lovely. grumbled Kid. She was looking at the stains on the wall. The ceiling had been pulled back up, but that was no reason to believe it might not come grinding down again at any moment. Bearing in mind what Riddle had told us the room was called, it definitely wasn't somewhere we wanted to linger. Quickly, hissed Magil before crouching down and examining the ground for clues. Kid and I crouched down too. What were we even looking for, though? What could the old man have left in this room that would help us bring him back to reality? The flagstones of the floor were smeared with a black, gooey substance which gave off an odd, rotten aroma. I shook my head, trying to drive off an uncomfortable thought from my mind. Kid saw me and clearly wasn't doing much better herself. She slowly turned, positioning herself so that she was facing away from the stains on the wall. There was no point in thinking like that. I just had to try. But then... oh boy. The door slammed shut and the gears ground into life. Here we bloody go again! We have to stop it. If we don't deal with the trap, we'll never find what we're looking for. Alright, time for some speed reading. The ceiling sank lower and lower. We ducked our heads, desperately trying to avoid the blades that jutted out from the bottom. Kid looked at me and screamed, "The sword! Use the Einlanzer!" What? How do you use a sword? I plunged the sword into the ground. I plunged the sword into Kid! Why was that an option? There! I drove the sword into the floor with all my might. A shock ran through the room. Beams of light scattered from the blade, covering the floor and walls and then racing upward. The ceiling gave an almighty judder, then stopped. We made it. I sank to the floor helplessly, my heart racing. Hey, what's that? Kid was pointing at part of the wall. It was where we'd seen the message written in blood. Guess we found what we're looking for. Part of the wall had collapsed, revealing a cavity behind what had looked like a piece of solid stone. Inside, I could see something glinting faintly in the darkness. Kid reached in with her fingertips, carefully extracting whatever it was from within. It was a slender ring with a delicately engraved design that looked like overlapping ferns. The ring was adorned with several small rubies in a pattern that resembled a bunch of grapes. The crest of Acacia. This must be an Acacian signet. Kid put the ring on her middle finger where it sat uneasily. It didn't seem to be her size. The rubies gave off an eerie glint. Right, let's not spend any more time in here than we have to. We managed to foil the trap and retrieve the Acacian signet. I left the Einlanzer where it stood and we exited the room, because everything is only a single-use item. Rattle. Kid stopped us. There's something there. I listened carefully. Rattle, rattle, rattle. A figure appeared in the darkness on the other side of the corridor. Is it a skeleton? It's a skeleton. We readied ourselves for a fight. I attacked. Come on then! I leaped at the skeleton. It lashed out with its sword. Blood dripped from my face, the tip of the blade had scratched my cheek. I jumped back in panic. Hope you brought your brown trousers, grumbled Kid. We squared off against the skeleton. It threw the sword it was carrying to the ground and took a step forward, and then it twisted its body into a strange pose. Wait, is it doing what I think it is? It proceeded to contort itself further, adopting a shape that could only be described as highly suggestive. For a moment, no one knew quite how to respond. What the bloody hell? What should we... Wait, Kid, look at Mag! Nigel seemed completely bewitched. I attacked. Come on then, I charged at the skeleton. I took advantage of the opening created when it raised its sword, and kicked it as hard as I could in the lower spine. There was an almighty crack as the bone snapped, and the skeleton fell in two. There we go. A split second later, Kid landed a massive blow on the top half. With its skull shattered, the skeleton immediately came to a halt. Huh, guess you can fight after all. We had defeated the skeleton. Kid turned her attention back to Magil. Can't believe this Drongo though. Thwack. She brought her fist down hard on his head. I was under the impression Magil was pretty tall. Maybe that'll wake you up. Now, if we're done here, let's get a bloody move on. What was I... Oh, ow. We continued on. Gotta get to the stairs. Following the corridor. A scream pierced the darkness, turning my blood to ice. I realized then that a pair of crazed, blood-red eyes was staring into the depths of my soul. Oh, it's you. It was a griffin. In a panic, I tried to slip the knife from my belt, but before I could drop my weapon, the griffin had spread its powerful wings and swooped toward me with an almighty screech. I was knocked back and started rolling across the ground. I gasped with pain as the wind was knocked out of me. Ragnus, you okay? Every nerve in my body was screaming with pain. I held back the groans and staggered to my feet. I looked up to see the massive griffin in front of me. Its hellish red eyes stared down its beak. It was going to attack. What could I do? I jumped back. Almost by reflex, I jumped back. But the griffin's talons were soon followed by its head. Ah! A sharp pain read through my waist. Clutching my wounded stomach, I did my best to regain my footing, and turned to face the griffin again. As the beast's mad red eyes glared at me, I desperately tightened my grip on my knife. I attacked. I reversed my grip on my knife and plunged it into the griffin's neck with all my might, but it somehow managed to turn its head aside, knocking my hand back at the last moment. Ah! The impact sent me rolling to the floor. I tried desperately to keep a tight grip on my knife so I wouldn't lose it. Don't move, Ragnus! Yelled Kid from behind me. Suddenly, she landed on my shoulders and leapt up into the air. Crack! Her knee crashed into the side of the creature's skull, making a crunching sound I could feel in my bones. The griffin screeched in agony, and then it turned its mad, crazed eyes toward me, where I lay on the floor having been used like a springboard by Kid. Just my luck. It was going to attack. What could I do? I ducked. Almost by reflex, I ducked the attack. The griffin suddenly beat its wings wildly, sending a barrage of razor-sharp feathers flying right at me. But fortunately, every single one of them flew clean over my head. Lucky me. It had been a close shave. I rose to my feet and faced the griffin again. I tried to defend myself. Keeping a safe distance from the griffin, I looked over to check on the others. Getting some breathing space allowed me a moment to refocus. My wounds didn't feel as bad as I first thought. Oi, Ragnus! This ain't a spectator sport! Shouted Kid as she gracefully dodged an attack. The griffin left itself open, and she quickly moved in to land a decisive punch right on the base of its wings. The beast beat his wings awkwardly. She clearly damaged something vital. This was my chance to follow up with the clincher. I crouched down, circling toward his blind spot, only for the accursed creature to spin around and face me. This thing freaking hates me. I ducked. I tried to defend. I fled. Still facing the griffin, I tiptoed backward trying to escape the battle. This was the kind of fight that was best left for Kid and Magil to handle. At least that was what I told myself. And where do you think you were off to, eh? The griffin had tried to swat Kid away with its wings, but she dodged them effortlessly and countered with a sharp jab, simultaneously aiming her barb at me without even turning. Great, I've been rumbled. But how? Did she have eyes in the back of her head? I didn't have time to think much more about it. The blow had sent the griffin lurching toward me, and once it regained its footing, it was clear that it intended for me to be its next target. I was its only target. Okay, duck. Uh-oh, it did something different. The griffin's talons racked through the air, plunging down toward me. Ah! A blast of pain shot through my head. Clutching at the wound, I did my best to regain my footing and turned to face the griffin again. I tried to defend myself, moving close. Almost by reflex, I jumped in close to the griffin's body. But then it lashed out with its talons instead. Ah! A sharp pain ripped through my waist. I attacked. Get down, Ragnus! Shouted Magil from behind me. Panicked, I dropped to the floor, and not a moment too soon, almost instantly, a blazing fireball sailed right over my head. It crashed into the griffin and exploded into an almighty conflagration. Ah! The griffin writhed in flames, shrieking madly. And then it glared down at my prone body, because where else would it look? Its eyes filled with primal fury. How do I end this fight? I jumped back. The griffin's powerful talons tore through the air right in front of my stomach. I had just managed to avoid a lethal blow. I attack. There we go. There is a bit of luck to these. The beast screamed and contorted with agony. I'd done it! I landed a blow, and a telling one at that. The griffin stiffened, suddenly becoming completely rigid. Its eyes rolled into the back of its head, and it fell to the ground with an almighty crash. We did it! We defeated the griffin! I fell to my knees and breathed a heavy sigh of relief. That thing wanted me dead. We left toward the dungeon. This place again. I hope this was the last time I'd have to come here. We went inside. Having retrieved the Acacian signet, we returned to the old man's cell. As soon as we got there, Magil took a step forward and grabbed onto the bars. They creaked and groaned as he heaved at them, gritting his teeth as he summoned every ounce of his might. Slowly, they bowed apart. He stepped into the cell through the gap, and Kid and I followed. The old man was exactly as we had left him, staring into space and muttering meaningless words. Kid walked over to him and crouched down. She grabbed him by the collar and yelled at him. Wakey, wakey, Granddad! We've got a few questions for you. Here, get an eyeful of this. Ring any bells? Kid waved the Acacian signet in his face, shaking him roughly all the while. The old man's head lolled as he simply allowed himself to be manhandled. I asked Magil to make Kid stop. I looked at Magil in horror. Is this how we're going to break through a shell? Fear not. This approach is as good as any. But do we even have the right to drag the poor man back into reality like this? Hasn't he suffered enough? I am prepared to do anything to achieve our goal. Magil stared right through me with that ice-cold gaze. Oh, an Acacian signet. The symbol of our vows. Bestowed only upon sworn Acacian dragoons. A low voice, almost a moan. I spun around in surprise. His eyes began to cloud once more. So my former allies have finally come for me. I am to blame. It is because of my indiscretion that the frozen flame was stolen, and that of all the Acacian dragoons, only I remain here in the manor. But now all is well, for you have returned. Oh, Melgid, Zoronda, where have you been all this time? Did you all return to Lake Stoic? Never mind all that, Granddad. Where's the frozen flame? Give us a clue. Anything. Come on, out with it. I couldn't decide if Kid sounded more annoyed or more desperate. The frozen flame? The old man looked momentarily confused. And then a wan smile crossed his face. My word, Lady Riddle. It has been far too long since last I had the pleasure. Why, you need only turn the third candlestick from the left as you enter the main hall. That will open the underground vault, as you know. Kid wrapped her arms around the old man and held him tight. And then, in a trembling voice, she whispered, I'm sorry. I promise we'll get it back. The man recoiled in horror and then began to sob once more. I am to blame. It's all my fault. Forgive me. Forgive me. Look, if you want to get out of here, now's your chance. But it was no use. He was too busy cowering and wailing to hear me. We're done here, Ragnus. We can't help him. And there's things we need to be doing. Thank you, I whispered to the old man before following Kid and Magil out of the dungeon. Alright, so we're going back to the main hall. We continued onward past where the stairs and the side passage emerged into the main corridor. We found ourselves in front of some ornate double doors. This was the main hall of the manor. Let's go inside. Pretty sure this is where I need to go. Looks like the coast is clear. We stepped into the main hall. Dozens of candles provided a dim, flickering light, sending the corners of the room dancing in and out of shadow. The great hall was filled with a heavy silence, a silence unbroken save for the ticking of a large clock that slowly counted the passage of time, as if waiting for something. Several portraits glared down at us with cold eyes. We moved through the feeble glow of the candles. Third candlestick from the left, whispered Kid. 1, 2, 3. There. She reached out towards it. I held my breath as I watched. Say your prayers, Lynx. We're coming for ya! Kid turned the candlestick. The room trembled with a sudden rhythmic rumbling sound, as if a massive gear was turning. What's that? For a moment I felt a strange sensation as if I was floating. Do you feel that? I started to stagger. The entire room seems to be moving downward, came the reply from Magil. I couldn't quite believe it, but I also couldn't deny the feeling of downward motion. The main hall was sinking into the earth. and then another rumble. The room's descent rapidly accelerated. A cold sweat dripped from my back. My heart filled with a mixture of fear and anticipation. What was waiting for us down there? The frozen flame. Our prize at the end of this little adventure. But what was it really? Would it live up to our expectations? I tightened my fists, which were slick with sweat. What were Kid and Nigel thinking? The room remained veiled in silence. As if in response to my thoughts, a quiet voice came from next to me. It was Kid. I looked over to see her standing stiffly, staring forward with her hands clenched into fists. Sometimes I feel like I'm stuck in a losing battle. A fight I'll never win no matter what I do. It was a side of her I'd never witnessed before. Even from this angle, I could see fear and doubt flickering across her face. I felt a tender sting in my heart. We'll win, I promise. There's nothing to worry about. We'll win in the end, I promise. Heh, Drongo. She gave a gentle smile. Can't promise anything in this world, Ragnas. There are no guarantees. But thanks anyway. She grinned again, seeming a little embarrassed, then looked me straight in the eye. And then I had the strangest sensation. This wasn't Kid. Or not the only Kid, anyway. I was overwhelmed by the inexplicable oddness of the idea. She noticed immediately, of course, and our little moment was over. The Kid I knew was back in the room. Trying to catch flies, mate. Sorry. It's just that for a moment there, it felt like you were someone else. What are you on about? Kid gave me a confused look, tilting her head. It must be because we are drawing near to the frozen flame. Madgel's voice, as soft as ever, slipped unbidden from the shadows. Eh? What the heck are you two on about? Kid turned towards him with another puzzled frown. There is another self within you, struggling against the pull of the abyss. But what had she been talking about? A crash split the silence, as if we collided with something. Skurch! A loud metallic scraping filled the air. The room rocked and finally came to a halt. Looks like the end of the line. All change! The swelling grandeur of the organ suddenly filled the air. No one had so much as touched it, and yet the keys and the pedals were moving by themselves. The melody it played was both unsettling and sad. Funeral tune, is it? Way to greet your guests. Kid took a long stride forward, then turned to face me and Magel. Come on, let's go. Magel and I gently nodded our assent. Kid grinned, then turned back to the door. I'm coming for you, Lynx. This is the end for you. And with that, she led us from the hall. How much more exploring is there? We continued down a long, dark corridor, the walls slick with condensation. The air was thick and heavy, as though ripe with the stench of death. Were we really getting close to Lynx's hidden vault at last? And was there any turning back now? For any of us? There was something strange about Kid that night. Magel didn't seem to be his usual self either. To begin with, it was vanishingly rare for him to speak so much, let alone to show any kind of emotion. What happened to make them change like that? Unable to take the silence anymore, I decided to speak. I had to ask the question that had been on my mind all this time. Hey Kid, why do you want the frozen flame so badly? All I got in reply was the cold echo of her footfalls. I should have known. She didn't like to talk about her reasons for doing things. After all, it was a topic that was likely to lead to discussion of her past. But then she spoke, though it was almost a whisper. I'm doing it for Sis. Before she died, she told me to find the frozen flame and bury it. Bury it where? Her old mate's grave. Kid looked at her feet as she walked. She wasn't me real sister, but she was as good as family to me. When she took me in, I was bloody helpless. Couldn't remember a thing, and I was barely old enough to survive on my own. She didn't go into too much detail about who her mate was. Best I can remember is that I needed to find the grave of a girl who married another mate of hers and died not long after. She said that's where the frozen flame should be laid to rest or something like that. To be honest, I wasn't paying much attention at the time. It's not like I could have known what was about to happen. When she disappeared and I realized she wasn't coming back though, I swore I'd make good on what she asked me to do. I'd nab the frozen flame from that rat bastard Lynx and get my revenge. Kid's eyes almost seemed to glow with heat in the cold night air. I'll make him pay for everything he's done, no matter what it takes, even if it kills me. And then she fell silent. Sorry, Kid. I didn't mean to bring up something so painful. There was a pause before she replied. Nah, you're alright. I should have said something sooner, before I roped you into this. Sorry. Silence reigned supreme as I fumbled around to try and find something to say in reply. But all that filled the darkness of the corridor was the sound of yet more footsteps. Suddenly, Magel stopped in his tracks. Wait! Huh? Kid turned around puzzled. Just then, a powerful light surged across the floor, and a ring-shaped sigil appeared. Damn it! A blood circle! Kid and Magel were at least quick enough to try and jump clear, but they weren't quite quick enough. The three of us were trapped in a circle of blinding light. Uh-oh. The sigil rotated left and right with us at the center, cutting off all routes of escape. Spellbinding circle! Gah! We're trapped! A wall of heat and wind blew up around us, and swirling lines and spirals of light assailed us wherever we turned. Don't let the light mesmerize you! Cover your eyes! Shouted Magel, raising a hand over his mask. Turn with the light, not against it. There has to be a way out. What? I barely even understand what's going on. Kid's elbow brushed against the wall of light surrounding us, sending sparks flying. Yeah, be careful. Merely to touch it is more than enough to harm you. Stay well back. What do we do about this? I slowly turned my body to follow the movements of the ring of light, looking for a gap to escape through. Oh, right 3 times. 3 steps to the right. There, I see it. That's our way through. I found a gap in the wall of light and carefully walked through it. Kid, Magel, this way. We managed to get through the barrier unscathed, but we weren't out of the woods yet. There was still another wall of light swirling with a great wind in front of us. I slowly turned my body to follow the movements of the ring of light, looking for a gap to escape through. Left twice. 2 steps to the left. There! I see it! That's our way through! Found a gap in the wall of light and carefully walked through it. Kid! Magil! This way! We managed to get through the barrier unscathed, but we weren't out of the woods yet. There was still another wall of light swirling with a great wind in front of us. I slowly turned my body to follow the movements of the ring of light, looking for a gap to escape through. I turned right twice. 2 steps to the right. There! I see it! That's our way through! I found a gap in the wall of light and carefully walked through it. Kid! Magil! This way! Suddenly, my body felt light, and I staggered 2 or 3 steps forward. We were back in the deserted passageway we'd been walking down before the blood circle had appeared. The sigil had vanished from the floor, and everything was silent as if nothing had ever been amiss. And then I looked up. Looks like we finally made it, boys. Kid strolled up to the door with a wicked grin on her face. The true frozen flame awaits. Magil's eyes gave a glint from behind his mask, like glass catching moonlight in the darkness of night. Let's go! Kid reached for the handle. So this is the place, huh? Kid narrowed her eyes, straining to see our surroundings in the darkness. A vast, pitch-black expanse surrounded us whichever way we looked. It was as if we'd entered an impossibly vast cave. We were in a place forgotten by time, unknown to the world, hidden deep within the bowels of night. A gentle crimson light hovered in the darkness. The frozen flame. Alright, now it's ours! The light of the flame ebbed and waned gently, as if responding to Kid's voice. What the heck is this place? There's mountains of bloody rubble everywhere. Magil took a step further into the room, and said in a whisper that was almost a groan. No. It can't be. I assume this is Lynx. Ah, but it is. The ruins of the lost kingdom of mages. The voice drifted down through the darkness from above. Kid looked up in shock. Lynx! I'll kick your flippin' ass so hard you'll kiss the moon! The moon's singular, huh? Kid pulled her knife from her belt and threw it as hard as she could. It fell to the floor with a clang, as if knocked out of the air by some unseen hand. Still the same impetuous child as ever, I see. That's no way to greet an old friend. Smarmy bastard! Kid gritted her teeth with rage. And you, Shadow Dweller, I'll have none of your tricks this time. You must think me a fool if you believe I'll fall for that again. Magil, who had been quietly slipping into the darkness that surrounded us, stopped dead in his tracks. So this was the infamous Lynx. Ugh, the Lord of this deadly manor. Is he even a cat? His face doesn't look very cat-like. Oh, it's probably just the eyes, actually. They have a weird glint. The man who had murdered the closest thing Kid had to family, who had assassinated General Viper, and eradicated the Order of the Acacia Dragoons. A pleasure as always, my dear Kid. And I must say, you follow the trail of breadcrumbs I laid for you admirably closely, my greedy little sneak thief. What the bloody— She stepped forward, bristling. Lynx narrowed his eyes as his lips twisted into a snarl. You know what I want, Kid. Give me the stone you carry. The stone? Did Kid have some kind of jewel I didn't know about? Peh, don't know what you're on about, mate. She just about managed to recover her composure, narrowing her eyes scornfully at her old foe. Spare me the act, child. I know that you have it. I know she gave it to you. Hand over the time egg now. The— what? Whatever it was, I'd never heard of it. You're dreaming if you think I'll give it to the likes of you. Oh, that other line was probably me. Kid shot back. It's all I have left of her. I'll never let go of it. Not for anyone and definitely not for you. I'll tell you what's gonna happen, you bastard. First, I'm gonna take the frozen flame, and then I'm gonna ram it down your throat. Incorrigible young fool. I was hoping this might be a civilized exchange. Alas, it seems my words will only fall on deaf ears, and you are determined to repeat your past errors. Lynx moved his hand to the grip of the ornate golden saber that hung from his belt. Last time I showed you mercy and let you leave with your life. That was a mistake, one which I mean to correct. Ragnus, Magil, stay back. Kid took a step forward, glaring at Lynx, her gaze unflinching. This ends here and now. You'll pay for what you've done. You'll pay for what you did to Luca. With a scream, Kid leapt into the air like a bird taking flight. Her foot lashed out in a siphoning kick aimed right at the side of Lynx's head. This battle music is great, but there was no contact. Where Lynx had been mere moments before, now there was only empty space. Kid landed and immediately launched herself back into the air, putting the full force of her momentum into another kick. This time, Lynx leaned back, letting Kid's foot swing past only a hair's breadth from his nose. And then it was Lynx's turn. He lashed out with his saber, carving an arc through the air in front of him. Kid was ready for him, however, and had already jumped back to a safe distance. The two glared at each other from mere footsteps apart. At least you had the decency to prepare a little better than last time, Lynx purred. A red line appeared on Kid's cheek, slowly coalescing into a drop of blood. Kid! In a flash, she launched herself into yet another attack. Lynx dodged to the side, then made to strike her with the hilt of his saber. Kid moved awkwardly to avoid the attack, losing her footing. And then Lynx was on her like a bird of prey before she could fully recover. There was a gasp and a cough as Lynx drove his knee into the pit of her stomach. Kid collapsed. A steady stream of red dripped from her lips. Will that be all, girl? Lynx gave Kid a merciless kick to the side, sending her flying. She landed on a pile of rubble, her body rolling until she hit a large stone pillar. And there she lay lifelessly still. Kid? Kid! I screamed her name as I charged towards Lynx, but Magil was there already. He flew through the darkness, a part of the shadows, before crashing down on Lynx like a bolt from the blue. Lynx jumped back, and countless threads of light flew from his fingertips toward Magil. With a droning hum, the threads of light surrounded Magil, crossing over one another. They spread to form a lattice of light that gave off a blinding glare, and trapped Magil where he stood. What is this? Magil staggered and groaned, attempting to shield his eyes with his hands. It is a simple enough spell, my shadowy friend, for those inclined to learn it, and one which, sadly for you, leaves no darkness in which to hide. Lynx leered at Magil with a venomous grin. You become quite the thorn in my side. I'll let you live long enough to regret it. Magil struggled and groaned. I had to do something. Kid and Magil needed me, but what was I going to do? I challenged Lynx. I charged at Lynx. I screamed as I rushed towards Kid's nemesis, and then, in one fluid motion, he spun around to face me, lashing out with his saber. I tried my best to dodge the blow, but the blade sliced into my body. I collapsed in a heap and rolled down onto the rubble. You weren't the first arrogant little street rat I've cut down, and you won't be the last. His claw-like fingers clamped around my throat. I couldn't breathe. Tightening his grip, Lynx lifted me bodily until my feet were dangling in the air. I could feel his talons mercilessly digging deeper and deeper into my neck. Panic filled my mind. Look, kid. See your friend. See him suffer. This is your doing. This is your hand around his neck. Kid's breathing was ragged, and blood still dripped from her lips. Opening an eye, she groggily raised her head, but she couldn't get up. She didn't have the strength. Agnes, give me the time egg. Do you even know what it is? I suspect not. Think of it as a concentrated pocket of space. With the frozen flame and the time egg in hand, one can bend the fabric of space and time, and rewrite the past. There are errors that I need to correct. Mistakes in the past that must be set right. Lynx's narrow, emotionless eyes returned to my face. How long before he perishes, I wonder? I struggled to breathe, but could only make choking sounds. Kid screamed my name. I couldn't speak. All I could do was make strange, strangled noises with my throat. And then I heard the crunching sound of my neck finally snapping. And that was how I died. Maybe I shouldn't have challenged him. Okay, how far back am I gonna have to go? Because I couldn't save for a while. I was trying to go into the pause menu for the longest time since we got into this room. Okay, I went back to Riddle's room. This was after we met her. Riddle was sitting on the sofa, gazing wistfully at something in her hands. It was an old, faded photograph. She noticed us looking at her and gently beckoned for us to come over. Is something the matter? She asked politely, gesturing at some seats nearby and inviting us to sit down. No, ta, Kid huffed, bluntly refusing the offer. Let's get out of here, boys, she said and made a beeline for the door. Riddle's gentle voice followed. Take care. Kid stopped just before leaving. And then she spoke, her back still to the lady of the manor. You're not helping us just to make the old man suffer even more, are ya? Who put him in the dungeon in the first place, and why? Riddle looked away and said nothing. Fine, keep your trap shut if you want. Just remember that we ain't here to do your dirty work, and you can think twice before you mess us about. I'm looking out for me and me alone. I know, sighed Riddle, her whispered reply vanishing into the night air. We left her to her worries and returned to the corridor. Alright, we're almost back to where we were before. I'm gonna run to Kid. Kid! I ran over to where she lay. She was flat out, still collapsed where she had fallen, and blood still ran from her mouth. Kid! Kid! Say something! I crouched down next to her, glancing at her face in panic. She groaned, and then she began to stir, her face twisted with pain. Agnes, it's okay, kid. I'm here. Now touching. Although I would be more concerned about my own well-being if I were you. The voice came from behind me. It felt as if ice water had been poured down my neck. I jumped to my feet and turned around. Lynx was looking down at me with a cold, emotionless stare. Any friend of Kid's is certainly no friend of mine. Forgive me, but I cannot permit you to leave this place alive. Before I realized it, his hand had shot out toward me. His claw-like fingers clamped around my throat. I couldn't breathe. Tightening his grip, Lynx lifted me bodily until my feet were dangling in the air. I could feel his talons mercilessly digging deeper and deeper into my neck. Panic filled my mind. Look, kid. Oh, come on. I died again. Alright, I'm gonna look up a guide, because it takes forever to get back to that point. Like, I can't mash through the dialogue very quickly. I have to watch it slowly come on the screen, every single little line. I had to do the trap sequence all over again. Alright, we're back to the fight again. Really wish I could save just before this. Since the other two options killed me, we're gonna run to Magil. I ran to Magil's side. Mag, are you okay? Leave me, you fool! You need to help Kid! He groaned and grimaced with pain, the web of light holding him mercilessly in place. But... Ah! I heard a scream from behind me. Go to her, Agnes, now! Delay any longer and you will regret it forever! He looked me dead in the eye. Do not make the same mistake I once made. You must protect her! I gave him a silent nod and got back to my feet, then turned toward Lynx and Kid. I ran to Kid. Kid! I ran over to where she lay. Okay, please don't kill me again. Oh, here we go. I struggled to breathe but could only make choking sounds. Kid screamed my name. Decide. Will you watch the boy die or relent? Does his life mean nothing to you? I can't. She balled her hands into fists and dropped her gaze. My vision started to fade, and then I heard her voice as she struggled to speak through the pain. I'm sorry, Ragnus, but I swore I'd sacrifice anything to stop Lynx. Give him the time egg. I'm only picking that because the guide said the other one would lead to a bad ending if my relationship with Kid was bad. And I don't think I picked enough good options to live there. Just give him the time egg. I only just managed to get the words out as I struggled to breathe. I wasn't ready to die yet. There were still so many places left for me to explore, so many things I wanted to do. But I was starting to black out. Was this really how it was going to end? For crying out loud. Fine, you win. Here, have your damn rock. Lynx's grip on my throat loosened. Groaning with pain, Kid reached a shaky hand into her shirt. I knew you would come around in the end. Lynx threw my body to the ground and walked over toward her. Just shut up and take it, you bastard. It's all you deserve. With all the strength she could still muster, Kid lashed out at Lynx with her right hand. Gah! He leapt back in a desperate attempt to evade the blow. But it was too late. Kid's nails, sharp as cat claws, raked mercilessly into his face. Lynx roared with pain. He staggered, clutching his left eye. Good. Blood oozed through the gaps in his fingers. You wretched little chit of a girl! Lynx stood awkwardly, still clutching at the wound on his face. The fingers of his free hand arched into furious talons as he walked back toward Kid, who still lay on the ground. I will kill you all! He kicked her hard, concentrating all his wrath and venom into the blow. Kid gasped as all the wind was knocked out of her. Yet more blood ran from her mouth as her body rolled across the floor. Kid! I yelled hoarsely, clutching my burning throat with one hand. Lynx turned his head slowly to look at me, one eye fixing on me coldly as it came into view. He took a step toward me. Yes. Perhaps it would be better to start with you. My dear Kid, rest assured that your friend's death will be a most elaborate and painful one. You will truly know what it means to suffer, boy. I will put you through the same suffering as I did that Luca woman. Kid's body stirred with shock and horror. Her eyes slowly opened, fixing on Lynx. They were wild eyes, stained with the blood that poured from her brow. Gritting her teeth, she staggered to her feet. Lynx! Lynx! And then an explosion of light burst forth from the frozen flame. Another light began to form from somewhere near Kid's chest, resonating with the light from the frozen flame. The twin lights entwined, twirling slowly upward, and as it rose, the golden spiral spread. No! This can't be! Lynx stood motionless, transfixed by the spectacle. Was this the Time Egg's power? Kid screamed as a raging blaze of light engulfed her. I'll never let you do it again! I'll never let you steal from me again! Bathed in the glow, her body shook. Blood-red tears dripped from her eyes as they took on a distant look, and then she collapsed to the ground as if all the life had gone out of her. I heard a voice. It was quiet and still like the evening. It has come to pass. Kid is retracing her lost memories back through time, back to the Lost Kingdom. It was through her power that the kingdom fell, that it was swallowed in the all-encompassing vortex of time. In her grief, she wished to disappear. Her past, her future, she wanted it all to sink into the void, to be lost in the seething whirl of time. She despised what she had done. She closed herself off from all that she saw and heard, and cursed her very existence. But the stone wished for her to live. The hands of her clock were rewound, her memories unraveled. The stone gave her a chance to begin again. The stone had both the power and the will to bring all of this about. Sinking through the sea of time, she drifted here, a mere babe, her memories a blank slate. Okay. Oh, what was that? The time egg shattered, its fragments raining down on the world, becoming shards of sorrow and anguish. The world around us drifted into pieces. It swallowed us, engulfed us. We were consumed, locked into the void. And then, a girl's scream echoed in the darkness. That voice. Was that Kid? It sounded just like, no, this is all wrong. The black vortex, it surrounds us. No, stop! Oh snap. Where am I? Dinosaurs! I have lost everything and now I can but wonder. The world drifts and time is a blur. There is only an endless unknowable sea. This is where time begins and ends. This is where all life finds peace. This might be Kid. I'm just gonna keep reading in my neutral voice though. I see myself as a baby, crying next to my mother, an exhausted yet proud look upon her face. I see myself aged and wizened, waiting to succumb to death's embrace with a smile. I see countless incarnations of myself, walking time's intricate corridors as ghosts. This is a place where countless worlds overlap and infinite dreams play out. If only I could rest here for eternity. If only I could free myself of all my burdens and sleep here, in the sea of dreams. Text is scrolling kind of fast, but I hear it calling to me. I hear the song. Kid! Kid, please! Can you hear me? Kid! Kid! Say something! Kid, you've gotta stay with me! Who's that? Who is calling me? Ragnus? Where am I? Kid? Kid! You're awake! I heard a song. It was beautiful. It was that song that Luca loved. Kid closed her eyes and her face glowed with a warm smile. I'll never forget that song. It makes me want to cry whenever I hear it. I'm just glad you're back. It felt like I was losing you. like you were going somewhere far, far away. Before I knew it, I was humming the song for you. I don't know if I ever mentioned it, but I wrote it when I first started out as a musician. I knew you liked it, so Kid gave a gentle nod. It was you. You were the one who called me back. That was you calling me name. Thanks, Ragnus. It's okay. It's okay now. I'm back. Suddenly she gasped with pain. Lynx's saber had plunged deep into her right shoulder. And towering over us was Lynx himself. I really hate this portrait. I told you, Kid. I told you I would kill you. She had no strength left to fight. What was I going to do? I tried to protect Kid. I threw myself over Kid's inert form. I had to protect her. You rushed needlessly to your grave, boy. Lynx glared coldly at me with his remaining eye. Alas, your time has come. He raised his saber high, preparing to strike. Enough. Stunned, we looked toward the intruder. You! Oh, there stood an old crone, her wizened features obscured by a heavy hood. How had she made it all the way down here? Lady Vera. And what have we done to bring poor Magister General running, I wonder? He growled. It's been far too long, Lord Lynx. A pity that I seem not to have caught you at your best. The crone met Lynx's mad stare head on. I will take the frozen flame. After all, it seems you two have been quite unable to decide which of you should have it. She raised a hand, and armed soldiers poured into the room. Naja lifted Kid to her feet. This seems like a good time to leave. Lynx snarled. You'll regret this, witch! He kicked off from the floor and his body rose into the air. Then he turned his venomous glare on us. And you, Kid! You'll pay for this with your life soon enough! You will never be safe from me! With that, he disappeared like a puff of smoke. The classic villain vanished. The crone lingered for a moment, her eyes resting on us. Kid, if you wish to try and steal the frozen flame again, you are welcome to try anytime you please. We'll be waiting. But you'll have to get out of here alive first. The soldiers drew their weapons and fell upon us. Darkness, heed my call! With Kid slumped against him, Matchel spread his arms and drew a sigil in the air. Hero vanish! Hurry, Ragnus! This way! I grabbed onto him and we plunged into blackness. We vanished into dark. Thanks to Machel's magic, we managed to escape the manor alive, but the lights of the torches dotted the forest, and we could hear soldiers calling to one another. We stopped briefly in the darkness of the woods, and Kid leaned heavily on a tree, desperately trying to quiet her ragged breathing. Haha, get it? Ragged? 'Cause your name's Ragnus? Oh no, she's delirious. We really gotta get out of here. It was a terrible wound she suffered, and it seemed to be taking its toll. Are you okay, Kid? Yeah. Don't worry about me, mate. We're surrounded. It won't be long before they find us, said Magel, his eyes cautiously scanning the area. Kid raised her head to look at me. It's me and Magel they want. Get out of here, Ragnus. It's us they want, not you. What are you saying? I'm not leaving you here. Look at you. You can barely stand. It's nothing I can't handle. And besides, I've got Magel with me. If they catch you with us, they won't go easy on you. But I remembered everything. I remembered another me. A me from a long, long time ago. Slowly, Kid averted her gaze, looking up at the night sky. I have to go. The stars reflected in her eyes, and suddenly she looked like nothing more than an ordinary young girl with a sad, distant expression on her face. Kid, don't worry, Ragnus. I'm okay. We'll meet again, Kid smiled. We'll meet again. Somewhere, someday, some time. Promise. Her eyes closed gently. I didn't manage to nick the frozen flame in the end, and I lost the time egg too. The only thing I had left of Lucas. But it's okay. Everything's gonna be okay. There's something inside me that shines brighter than any stupid jewel. The most important thing in the world. She opened her eyes again and fixed them on me. I could have lost myself in their depths forever. No one can take it from me. Not for as long as I live. There was nothing else in the world I wanted but this. I doubted I'd ever want anything again. I only wanted this moment. All the clocks in the world could have stopped right then and there for all I cared. And that was exactly what I wished for as I gazed at her. Goodbye, Ragnus. And thanks. She looked down, then turned away and disappeared into the darkness of the night. Would I ever see her again? Kid, don't follow me, Ragnus. Please, just don't. I strained to try and catch a glimpse of her as the last traces of her shadow vanished. Vanished toward a place I might never reach again. No! Kid! I leapt to my feet, meaning to chase after her, but a shadow soon blocked my path. Magel! Without saying a word, he slowly shook his head. Behind the mask, I saw a sadness in his eyes. Then the shadow withdrew and melted into the darkness. Magel? Kid? Wait! Don't leave me! I screamed into the night, but there was no reply. The black silence swallowed my cries. Kid! Kid. Are you getting an epilogue here? And so ends another tale. Perhaps one day I'll see Kid and Magel and Riddle again. One day. Somewhere. At another time. In another world. Perhaps none of us will even realize it. But that's a story for another day. For now, I must put down my pen. I closed my grandfather's diary, and then from downstairs I heard my mother calling. Did you hear me? Your friend's here! Nimble footsteps charged up the stairs. The door flew open. In tumbled a young girl, a girl who seemed somehow familiar. Hey Ragnus, it's a beautiful day for adventuring. I found a rundown old manor off in the woods to the north. You wanna go exploring? Come on, put the book down, let's get out there. And that's it. That's it. Alright, Future Egg here with post-game thoughts. Not that there's much to say, but I gotta let the credits roll anyway. This was an intriguing side story. I couldn't help but wonder what the intent behind it was. Like, was it a scrapped idea that someone later decided to flesh out? Turns out that it's the opposite. This story came first, so it's more like the prototype to the main game. I really like the atmosphere. It did a really good job creating a foreboding feeling. Every time I went to a new area, I thought, what fresh hell is waiting for us this time? Our character actually had some personality here. Having an inner voice really does a lot. We got his reactions to stuff, his romantic interests, exasperations, etc. He's not doomed to be a blank slate here. Kid was entertaining as always. I feel like she's rougher around the edges in this story. Magil was so fucking cool. I want to see more of him. He was the perfect counterbalance to the other two. More experienced and knowledgeable than the protagonist, and more calm and level-headed than Kid, but also straight up ruthless in combat. Some of those spells he used were brutal. Apparently Magil was supposed to be in Chrono Cross, but there was difficulties in representing his story among the game's numerous characters. He was confirmed to be Magus from Chrono Trigger. That was probably a huge factor in that area. They'd have to tie the plots even more closely together. I'm a little torn. I wouldn't have minded some sacrifices to have him included, but if he's a character in Chrono Trigger, I could just play that game if I want to see more of him. Plus, if they directly use a legacy character, there's the risk of him being written in an unsatisfying way. But this version is so cool just through text that I feel he should have been playable. Anyway, biggest criticism is that it takes a massive amount of time to get back to the final encounter with Lynx if you fail it. It's ridiculously tedious, and that's about it. So completing the story unlocks a new ending in the main game. I'll be looking forward to seeing that along with the other endings on my own time. It's not gonna happen anytime soon, but Chrono Trigger is something I plan to play for the channel in the future. I hope the Steam release is good, by which I mean doesn't crash like Chrono Cross did. I do have to thank the devs for trying to fix the game though. I know it's unrealistic to think I might be responsible for the most recent stability patch, but there was a 3-year gap between it and the previous one, and the new one came after I picked up the game again. But probably more likely that a bigger channel played it around the same time, which brought attention to the issue. Whatever the case, someone cared about the game enough to continue working on it, so people could enjoy their experience with it, and I always appreciate that kind of passion. Well, that's about all there is to say, so Future Egg out, see ya!